to confirm if you can clearly hear me, and again, if you can clearly see over there. I just need a confirmation from one of you guys. But otherwise, as always, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important, because what I'm about to say, it's massively, 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 massively hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, please, guys, please, 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 ladies and gentlemen, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very, very much important, honorable members, on that one. Okay, so without any waste of our precious time, this is what I'm going to do, honorable members. I'm going to teach you something that you'll never learn in school, especially packaged in the manner that I'm going to present to you. And I will try to be as raw as possible, meaning I'm not going to be referring to my notes, but everything that I'm going to be saying should be something that comes directly from what I'm thinking at the current moment. So obviously you can see mathematics, it's what we're going to be dealing with in today's lesson. So guys, let's first look at what makes mathematics to be what it is. It's only three simple things, honorable members. I did notice from your scripts that there is a common problem that you guys are facing. So what I'm hoping to achieve in today's lesson is to make sure that we address all of those difficulties, just so that you are aware of what you are missing. And then from there, you will notice how important it is to understand, not just to understand, but to fully understand what I'm going to be telling you in today's lesson. So guys, three simple things. Number one, the signs. I have done a similar lesson before, but I think it is worth it for us to start here before we get to the business of the day. The signs. So that means mathematics, it's a combination of the signs. Number two, numbers. And lastly, the letters. You might not believe that it's just these three things which are combined together to form maths problems. The signs, we talk about the plus, the minus. It could be a multiplication, a division, which can also be written as a forward slash or otherwise that slash. Remember, a negative, it's also a sign, not forgetting it's equals to. It doesn't end there, honorable members. We can include the brackets. Maybe the last few signs to include, maybe let's talk about less than, greater than, less or equals to, greater or it's equals to. There are more signs that we can talk about, but for now, let's leave it there, because these are the most important signs that you use almost every time when you're dealing with a maths problem. So the numbers, it's only 10 numbers, honorable members, just 10. The first one being 0, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5, 6, 7, 8, and the last number being 9. These are the numbers that you need in order to pass your mathematics with distinctions. You don't need any other number, just those simple 10 numbers. Again, when it comes to the letters, honorable members, is the letters that you know. Letters which starts from A all the way up to Z. Doesn't matter whether we explain that by making use of capital letters or small letters. What you need to know is that maths involves letters, and those letters are the letters that you know from A all the way up to Z. So maybe let me make you guys aware of something. For example, when we talk about 101, 101 or 101, this is a number which is a combination of 1 and 0. We can still talk about, let's say, 2374. Guys, this is a combination of 2, 3, 7, and 4. So it's more like we make use of these 10 numbers to combine them together, and most importantly, we combine them accordingly in order to construct a number. So now what happens is this number, we can now combine it with a sign where we can put a negative there. So that means we now have two things over there. We've got the signs, or otherwise in this case, we've got a sign and the numbers. So this is a sign, this is a number. But collectively, we refer to that as negative 101. So now, when we look at that, as a mathematician, you need to be aware that for every number that you see, there's always a sign of a plus or a negative. So in this case where it seems like there is no sign, trust me, it is there, but as an invisible positive. I'll make a note somewhere up there to say, in mathematics, we've got some invisible things. Mainly two of them. The first one is a positive sign. And the second one is 1. Those two can be invisible. I will indicate in which instances you've got an invisible positive and an invisible 1. In a situation where you have 3, just know that there will always be a positive which is invisible, unless if it's negative, we need to write it and say negative 3. But you must always know that this is a combination of the sign and the number. Combination of a number and the sign. So that means the sign, it's an independent component, and then let's say 3, it's an independent component, which is a number. It doesn't end there, honorable members. Remember, we can still make use of this sign and say negative into 2 close bracket. You should be aware that this is a sign, this is a sign, this is a sign, and that is a number. In short, you need to be aware that this is a combination of the signs and a number. Now let's include the letters, honorable members, and see how letters can be combined with those other components. For now, let's refer to those as components. So that means when I'm saying components, I'm referring to either the signs or the numbers or the letters. So now let's try to combine the 3. Okay, let's see. How about now? Is it still the same or is it better now? Can someone please just make an indication via the comment section to indicate if everything is clear now? Or better? Okay. Dintle Tsiamo has just confirmed that it is better now. So guys, just in case if it's lagging, please do make sure while there's poor connection on my side. So let's see. Now let's try to combine those three components. So we can have something like, let's say, 4y. Guys, can you see now? This is the combination of all of those things. Someone might be saying there's something missing, being the sign. Remember, the moment you do not see a sign, just know it is an invisible positive sign. So that means we have got positive as a sign, we've got a number as 4, we've got a letter there. So can you guys see we've now combined all of those things? This thing has got a name, honorable members, and we call it a term. This is a term. Mathematically, we refer to that as a term. So that means, in short, a term, it is made of two reconnecting. Okay, let me confirm, guys. It's lagging again. Okay, let me wait for a moment. So there was an incoming call. I hope it was the one which caused this disconnection. So let's see now. How about now, honorable members? Larissa, is it okay now? I'll just wait for a moment for someone to confirm on your side. It's better now. Okay, then it's fine. So guys, can you guys see we've got positive 7, which is made of just the sign and the number. So that means a term can be made of these two or 3 of them. But just know that the moment a letter is involved, all of this, they are there. Let's say, for example, if we say X, honorable members, X on its own, please be aware that you've got some invisible things there. The first invisible thing that you have, it's an invisible positive. The second thing that you have, which is invisible, it is that one that I was talking about over there. So that means you do have the sign, you do have the number, and you do have the letter. And this is what we call, mathematically, we refer to that as a term. It doesn't end there, honorable members or members who are honorable. I'll just remove all of that. And then from there, we will try to formalize all this information. So let's see. This is what happens, honorable members. I'm just thinking of where to start. Maybe let's have a look at the structure of a term. This is how the structure of a term looks like. Let's say the first thing that we have in this format, it's a sign. Second thing that we have, it's a number. Thirdly, letter. And lastly, we've got an exponent. This is the structure of a term. Maybe let me write down there to say, number 1, a term starts with a sign. And that sign, it's either it is a positive or a negative. The first sign of a term. Someone is asking, is plus or minus a sign? Not as plus or minus. Plus or minus simply means plus or minus. So that means it is 2 signs, plus or minus. But this, it's not a sign, but you've got signs there, being a plus and a minus. I hope you are answered there, meaning you have 2 possible answers, one being a plus and then another one being a minus. So that means you've got positive 2 and negative 2. But do not worry that much, honorable members. For now, just know that a plus or minus, it's a sentence which explains that you have a plus or a minus. Okay, so now let us see, after having the sign, what comes after? It is the number. Sometimes there are those who wear blazers when they go to school. You might find that they prefer to that as coefficient. Coefficient. So just know that mathematically, if you do not want to say a number, you can make use of that word which says coefficient. Coefficient, it simply refers to the number. Okay, so now I said the third box is for a letter. And again, if you like, you can refer to that as a variable. So that means mathematically, you have an option to refer to a number as a number or otherwise as a coefficient, letter as a variable. And then lastly, we've got our exponent over there. Trust me, honorable members, every maths problem that you are dealing with, you can interpret it by making use of all of that. I'll give you an example. Let's say we've got a 2p. I'm going to interpret that as a term. The question now is, what is the sign? If it's not written, just know it's an invisible positive. So that means we've got the sign. What is the number or the coefficient? It is 2. What is the letter or the variable? It is p. What is the exponent? As always, if it is nothing, just know that it is an invisible 1. So that means we have invisible 1 over there. What is the sign of that one? It is an invisible positive. So positive and 1 has got a potential to be invisible. So can you guys see? I've interpreted that term by making use of that standard. Now, let me remove all of this. Let's say now we are having 4. Can I interpret that one as a term? What is the sign? Positive. Number, it's 4. Variable, it's not there. What about the exponent? An invisible positive 1. So can you guys see? That means this is now a term which has only the sign and the number. No letter in that case. Mathematically, this can be referred to as something else. But for today, let's make use of that word term to interpret a given maths problem. Because I do realize that the problem with most of you guys is not being able to interpret a term. It's more like you do not know the history of maths, or you do not know what constitutes mathematics, or what is being combined together to form mathematics, which is what I'm training you in today's lesson. And once I've successfully done that, towards the end of the lesson, that's where we are going to be dealing with some real problems where we interpret them and also try to provide solutions to those problems. So it might be a lengthy lesson today. As a result, I am encouraging you to make sure that you've got a glass of water. Okay, so now very quickly, let's look at this. Let's say we are now having a 2p, maybe minus 4x. The question now is, how many terms are we having there? I think it is easy to say we've got 2 terms, honorable members. How do I know? A term, it is separated by a sign of a plus or a minus, simply because the starting of a term is that sign of a plus or a minus. So can you see here, we've got an invisible positive. And then in between, you've got a sign of a minus. So that means this is a term and also that is a term, which means you've got two terms. Let's interpret the first term. The sign, it is a positive. The number, it is 2. The letter, it is P. The exponent, it is 1. That's how you interpret the first term. Coming to the second term, you've got the sign being the negative, you've got that being the number, you've got that being the variable, then you've got that being the exponent. Very, very much important, honorable members, that you pay full attention to everything that I'm explaining in today's lesson. So now I'm going to remove all of that and I'll give you something that I'm also going to interpret. And then from there, we are going to be going deeper. So let's see. Let's say we have, honorable members, maybe let's say 2x, let's say plus maybe 7y. Let me add an equal sign there. And then from there, let me have 4. Members who are honorable, I'm pretty much sure that you would agree with me that everything that I have there, I got it from there. There is nothing new there, honorable members. There's completely nothing new. Everything that I've written there, it comes from there. So that means this is where maths starts, which is a good indication that you need to fully understand the beginning of mathematics. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for you to catch up and follow, honorable members. It's going to be very, very difficult. So let's see very, very quickly. We've got an invisible positive there. We've got 2. We've got x. We've got an invisible 1. We've got positive there, 7, y, and then we've got 1. So can you guys see? There is a term, there is a term. This is now a sign, honorable members, of which it's easier to refer to that as the border. This is the border, honorable members, meaning when you cross the border, let's say you're from South Africa and you are now crossing that border going to, let's say, Zimbabwe. So that means this is now the currency that you were using in South Africa being the rands. You just need to be aware that the moment you cross the border, it changes from being the rands to becoming the Zim dollar. Doesn't matter whether you cross the border to go to Europe, honorable members. This is the currency that is going to be changing from the rands to the euro. Could be the pound. You might be going to Japan, and I think there they are using what we call Japanese yen. So now we are labeling these signs. That one will always refer to that as the border, just so that we always remember that every time when you cross the border, the currency changes. Trust me, honorable members, this is all that I needed to know for me in order to fully understand mathematics. But guess what? Obviously, as you go higher and higher and higher, now things start to be a little bit more complex. Let's say you are now having that. How are we therefore going to interpret that one? So now we are having that square root over there, honorable members. But you just need to know that when you have a square root similar to that, you have an invisible 2 there. So that means whatever that is inside the square root, it's more like I'm saying you can rewrite this in that format. So it's like you are having 2y, the power there, it's invisible 1. So what happens is that you say this is the same as that invisible 1 over that invisible 2 over there. So you can now easily try to interpret that by making use of that. You might need to further work it out because in mathematics, we do not want to see the brackets at all. Where now you say you have the exponent, and there's some things that you need to do in order to rewrite this such that it does not have those brackets. Then you can interpret it making use of that format. But for now, this is not what I'm teaching you guys. I am still on the introduction to mathematics, of which everyone who does maths needs to be aware and fully understand what I'm explaining there. So that's all that you need to know with regards to a term. I'm about to remove all of this, honorable members, and then we move on to the second phase of our lesson for today, where we discuss types of maths problems. Before I do that, guys, were you able to learn something from what I've explained there? I just need a comment in the comment section. Someone just to indicate if you were able to learn a thing or two from what I've explained, because I'm about to remove all of this and then we move on to something completely different, which is also connected to this. But what I'm going to be talking about is the problem types. Okay, I've got some indications in the comment section. So now I'm going to remove all of this. I hope you did take some screenshots. For those of you guys who did, you do need to be aware that in my lessons from time to time, there will be a time where you need to take some screenshots. Okay, so now problem types. It's what problem types or types of maths problems. It's what I want us to discuss. Maybe let's start with this one and say we have what we call an equation. In mathematics, under equation, let me add an S there because there are many types of equations in mathematics. I think I might need to use a red marker there to say the first type of an equation that we are going to be talking about in today's lesson, it's what we call a linear, which means we refer to that as a linear equation. Number two, let's maybe talk about what we call a quadratic equation. There are some more, but at this stage, you don't need to learn about the third type. You only need to learn about those two. Then you will have the confidence to deal with some more types of maths problems. Another type of a maths problem, let's maybe talk about an expression. Maybe let me add, no. Let me not add an S there because an expression is not that much complicated. Under equations, I just indicated that we've got a linear and a quadratic. So let me just give you an idea of what an equation is and what an expression is. Very simple. Every time you see an equal sign, just know it is an equation. It is as simple as that. But the moment you are given a maths problem which does not have an equal sign, just know it is an expression. I hope you guys are learning there. Because sometimes you're just dealing with a maths problem and you're not able to interpret that maths problem, or otherwise you do not even understand the type of a problem that you are dealing with. Most importantly, As a mathematician, you need to understand the type of a problem that you are dealing with. In that way, you will be in a better position to be able to provide a solution to that specific problem. It's very much difficult and costly to solve a problem that you do not understand. So that means when we study or when we learn or we study the problems. What we know is that as soon as you understand the problem, you will therefore be able to easily provide a solution, not just a solution, but a sustainable solution to that specific problem. But the moment you do not give yourself enough time to study the problem, you will rush to provide the solution, only to find out at a later stage that you might have provided a solution, but it was just a temporary solution. In a long run, it caused some more problems. So that means you now have more problems in addition to the initial problem that you had. That was a lifetime advice. Okay, so now if we have 2x maybe plus 3 there, the moment I say it's equals to something, which could be 7, the question that you should be asking yourself is that number one, an equation, or number two, is it an expression? So because it has an equal sign, it means it is an equation. Guys, I want you to listen very carefully. Vulani mandlebe and listen very carefully. So that means when you have an equation, this is what you do. You solve. What are you solving? You solve for the unknown. In mathematics, what is the unknown? Unknown is represented by a letter. So that means always when you are given an equation, you are going to be solving. Usolva ini. You are solving the unknown. What is the unknown? The unknown, it is represented by the letter. So now that we have got an equation there, we know that we are going to solve. What is the unknown? The unknown, it is represented by the letter. What is the letter there? The letter is letter X. So that means when we solve, we are solving for X. This equation, if you want to interpret it with a spiritual eye, it's like they are saying, what is that number? When you say 2, multiply by that number, and then you plus it by 3, it is going to give you 7. That's how you spiritually interpret that equation. It's like they're saying, what is it that when you punch on a calculator and say 2 into whatever, then you plus 3 on a calculator is going to give you 7. Trust me, you might find that that number is 2. So can you now see, we know that our unknown, which is represented by letter X, it is actually 2. Similarly, when we have 4 plus y and they say this is equals to 5, if you interpret this with a spiritual eye, it's like you're saying, what is that unknown number? When we say 4 and then we plus it with that number, it will give us 5. We do know very well that this unknown number, it is known to be 1. Because when you say 4, you plus it with 1, it does give you 5. But now, sometimes it's not as easy as that in order to know what is that unknown without you following the procedure. For example, let us say you are having maybe 2x, you plus it with a 4. Let me maybe say squared, and then let's say this is equals to 1 over 4. Or maybe let me even remove that and leave it as that. Yes. So can you guys see, it might not be an easy thing to tell what that is. And that is based on how complicated the problem may be. But you need to follow mathematical procedure. For example, if you had to work this one out, you take this to the other side, it changes the currency, it becomes -4. And then now you need to remove that 2. So what you do, you're going to divide everything by 2 just so that this cancels, and then you will know exactly what your x is by punching all of that. So that means when we solve for the unknown, it's like we just want to know the value of that letter. Trust me, it is just going to be that number from 0 all the way up to 9. Or otherwise, it could be a fraction, or otherwise a decimal. But all of those, they are coming from these 10 numbers that I spoke about earlier on in the beginning of this lesson. So now, let's go deeper. Maybe before we do that, let's say if you are having 2x, maybe plus 1, and maybe this is equals to x. Honorable members, this is not an equation. Why is it not an equation? Because it does not have an equal sign. It is therefore an expression. The question now is, what do we do when we have an expression? Guys, very simple. You just simplify. That's all that you do. Just to give you a sense of what simplify means. It's like you are having a 2 that you plus it with 4 that you plus it with a 5. This can be simplified as, what is that plus that? It's 6 plus 5. What is that plus that? It is 11. So can you guys see? We have written this expression into something very simple, which is 11. That's what we mean when you say you simplify. You make it simple. So that means you need to expect something which is not simple, and you need to make it simple. You must be given something that you need to simplify. So you don't just come across a math problem and then suddenly you just want to solve, not knowing what you are solving. Okay, now let's clarify these two. Let us clarify those two. A linear equation, a quadratic equation. Remember, for both of these, you are solving. What are you solving? Solving for the unknown. What is represented by the unknown is the letter. Maybe let's start with linear. Let's discuss everything related to linear equation. How do you notice a linear equation? Number one, it has an equal sign. And then secondly, you can be having some things there. Let us say P there, maybe let's say 7. So the only way to identify a linear, you just look at the letters. And you look at the powers of those letters. Can you guys see? These letters are to the power of 1. So that means when you have exponent of 1, you can conclude to say you are dealing with a linear. Maybe, for example, let's say we have 2x plus 4 is equals to 0. You look at the letter there. The letter is x. What is the exponent of that letter? Is invisible 1, which means it is an equation. What type of an equation is that? It is a linear. Okay, let's now bring a different type of a math problem. Let's say we have 4 plus y squared equals to 0. The moment you start having a letter 2, the exponent of 2, that makes that type of an equation a quadratic equation. If you have 2, let's say x squared minus, you can have x, maybe let's say this is equals to 4. Of course, you've got 2 letters there, and this one is to the power of 1. But the question now is, what is the highest power? Is this letter having the highest power of 2? So we say it is to the highest degree of 2. For you to have that, it qualifies it to be a quadratic equation. That's how you notice the difference. I think for now I'll leave it there. Then every time when we deal with an equation, I will indicate the type of that specific equation. Otherwise, I'll give it to you guys to let me know. But I'm going to tell you a secret, honorable members. Some of these things, I consider them to be secrets because it wasn't easy for me to discover these things. Only if you had a powerful teacher, it would be easy to notice. But some of these things, when you discover them on your own, and at a later stage you discover them through your educator, that's how you realize how powerful an individual can be. So I want you guys to be aware that the brain is so powerful such that it has the potential to discover what at the moment you might not be thinking about. Whatever that you are thinking about now, just know that the brain has got the potential to discover things that you can think about. This is what I'm going to tell you, honorable members. When you are dealing with a linear, this 1, the power of 1, it means your final answer is going to be just one answer. When it comes to quadratic, it means you are going to have 2 answers. If you had what we call a cubic, let's say a cubic equation, that means the highest power or exponent is going to be 3, which means you are going to have 3 possible answers. I'll give you an example. 2x plus 4, let's say this is equals to 0. What type of an equation is this? This is a linear. Why? Because it's only one letter to the exponent of 1. That means if we had to solve this, we are therefore going to arrive at one answer. Let's work it out. You take that to the other side, then you remain with 2x, which is equals to -4. You remove that 2. How do you remove it? You divide by exactly that so that it cancels. Then your answer, it is -2. So can you guys see? You remain with one answer. So that means always when it comes to linear, you will always have one answer. But this one, 2 answers. I hope you guys are learning there, honorable members. I hope you guys are learning there. But now, when it comes to a quadratic equation, again, I'm going to reveal a secret to you, honorable members. Le butšhela risa if le nyako tseba gore ke kotsi bokangkang. Risa o tlo le botša gore ngiyingozi What I'm going to show you guys is how they derive maths problems. I see someone saying limitless there. It's Mose Penuel Mahlalela. The honorable member is simply confirming that the mind or the brain can limitlessly function. Look at this, honorable members. I'm not going to confuse you with some more. I'll only do this. This is how they derive equations or math problems and they give to you. If they want your final answer to be 2 or to be 1, they will work it backwards and say for this to be that, that means it was that. Also this one, it was that. Before that, it means it was inside the brackets. Everything was equated to 0. So that means you had x minus 2, you had x minus 1. And then before it was this, it was that by that being what? Being x squared, that by that being minus x, that by that being minus 2x, that by that being positive 2, everything is equated to 0. Then now that means this is what you had, equals to 0. So what they do, Moano, it is to give you this as a maths problem. And then you need to work it out in that direction. And this must be your final answers. Just as I hope you guys nivulile emehlo and amadlebe. So that means examiner is going to therefore remove all of this and say, work that out, and I'm going to give you 3 marks to work it out. So because x is to the power of 2, it means you will finally have those 2 answers. If you remember, it was 2 and 1. So that means you will need to work it out until you get to those final answers, which are 2. But what I'm trying to explain there is that when you have a quadratic equation, you will always have 2 possible answers. That's what I'm saying there, honorable members. Hope you guys are learning there. That's all that I wanted to say with regards to arithmetic, not arithmetic, but linear and quadratic. Now I'm going to make a conclusion. This is a conclusion that I'm going to make, honorable members, to say at all the times when you are dealing with a linear equation, at all the times, this is what you always want to do. You always want to have letter equals to a number. So that means the moment you realize that you are dealing with a linear equation, this is where you should remember that song which says Chabalala one side, Malurega one side, Baloi one side, Mangani one side. Just not sure if you guys remember this song, but I've sang it so many times. Ting, 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 ting. Jabalala, one side. Just as you guys are 2Ks, you might not even recognize the song. I'll just wait for the piano version of this song, then I will sing it nicely, then it will sing. But in short, letters one side, Maluleka one side. Linear. Okay, so now quadratic. What about quadratic, honorable members? When it comes to quadratic, you always want to write it in the standard form. Standard form, it is this one which says ax squared plus bx plus c, and then you want to equate everything to 0. Once you've done that, what you want to do now, it is to factorize. This is all that you try to achieve when dealing with a quadratic equation. Okay, guys, remember, you might not be catching everything that I'm explaining, and it could be multiple reasons. Some of the reasons, it could be that you joined late, otherwise it could be that you are attending my lesson for the very first time today. But otherwise, worry not, this lesson is being recorded. Soon as I'm done, it's going to be posted and you can still catch it up. That means you can watch it over and over again. But for now, I just want to check with you, honorable members, if you have learned a thing or two there. Anyone to confirm if you have learned something out of what I've explained up to this point with regards to equations, namely that of linear and quadratic, before I move on to an expression. Guys, anything that you have learned there, yebo, no matter. But hopefully you did learn something, unless if you're not attending this type of a lesson for the first time. See, someone is saying I can't hear you. I'm just hoping that is not the case for everyone. Guys, can you hear me? Okay, I see positive reactions there, which is a very good indication that we are still together. So remember, guys, for someone who's attending my lesson for the very first time today, I think it's worth it for me to make you aware that only on weekends we do the YouTube lessons, where without any interruptions, I just conduct a lesson, but only when it comes to the Zoom lessons. That's where you are able to engage and ask me questions directly, where I'm able to instantly answer your question. But for today, I just want to be free, where I just flow and flow and flow and flow. Then, only at a later stage, you can catch up and develop some questions which you will ask on our next lesson. Okay, very much impressed that you guys did learn something new. Gomez, I'm not sure, you said something very much important and positive there. I see the message has been retracted, but I think you did say something like, I've learned the difference between a linear and a quadratic. Yes, quadratic, two answers, always. Let's now very quickly discuss expression. So for example, when it comes to expression, you might be having something similar to this. Maybe let's say plus x there, and then over maybe 4. Yes, something of this nature. So can you guys see? This one is an expression. There's nothing much that you can do other than simplify. Let me maybe give another type and say 2p plus 7 minus x plus maybe p, maybe let's say plus 3x, maybe let's say there plus 1. So can you guys see what type of a math problem is that? It remains your responsibility to know that this is a math problem, of which when we talk about the type of a math problem that is, we refer to that as an expression. Why? Because it doesn't have an equal sign. So that means if it's an expression, what you do is to simplify. How do you simplify? You look for the like terms and you deal with them. You don't just deal with them, but listen very carefully. You deal with them decisively. The best way to go about it is to firstly start with the numbers. For example, you have a number there and a number there. So what is that number plus that number? It is 8. You obviously have that 2p there. You still have minus x. You still have that plus p. You still have that plus 3x. Then you see you've got some more letters. You've got p and then you've got x. The question now is between p and x, which letter comes first is p. Then you now move on to the p. So that means you have 8. You have 2p plus p, that is 3p. You have minus x, you have plus 3x. You have dealt with the p's decisively. Now you go to the x. So that means you have 8 plus 3p, and then you have negative invisible 1 plus 3. Trust me, negative 1 plus 3, it will give you a 3. No, not 3, but 2. So that means you've got 2x. So can you guys see? You now have things in a standard format or in a good order of numbers. And then you've got the number with that letter and then the number with that letter. So you've got 3 terms there. There is a term, there is a term, there is a term. That's if you want to interpret them. So the moment you have the variables which are not the same, so variables we are referring to the letters, the moment they are not the same, that means you are done. You cannot work them out because they are not of the same family. The variables are not the same. You cannot add or combine p with x. Kuhle Cecil, yes, an expression, honorable member. Okay, again, something very much important, honorable members. Something very, very much important. I think sometimes what makes maths to be more difficult, it is the signs. If we have 2, let's say x to the exponent 5, we do have this multiplication. We open a bracket, we say negative x, and then we have that, we have that, we have that, to the that. At least let's know something, honorable members. You might not know how to deal with it, but at least know what type of a math problem is that. Is it an equation or an expression? Let me hear from you, honorable members. That one. Is it an equation or is it an expression? What type of a math problem is that? Whatever that you say, give a reason. If you say it's an equation, what is the reason, or how do you know, or how do you see? If it's an expression, how do you know and how do you see? And what do we do? For example, if you say it's an equation, how do you know? And now that we know it's an equation, how do we deal with it decisively? It's like I'm asking if we are solving or simplifying. Yes. Yes. You guys are indeed correct. It is an expression because it does not have an equal sign. So what I wanted you guys to do is to say, not necessarily to do, but to say, we simplify. Expression because there's no equal sign and should simplify it. Yes. We now need to simplify that. But before we do this thing of simplifications, honorable members, the other main problem is not knowing where to start. Most difficult thing, not knowing where to start. I'm going to now tell you something, honorable members. If you are dealing with numbers only, multiplication sign is best to use that one. Sometimes when letters are involved, it's always best, for example, to not use that multiplication. You can just say 2p. Why do we not use that? It's so that we don't want to confuse you. We don't want you to think this is 2xp. That is why we just write it as 2p. So just know that in between there's a bond of a multiplication. Otherwise, if we have a number and combined with a letter and we multiply with a number combined with a, so it's better to just say 2, for example, x multiply as a dot, and then we say 3p. So that means we can't say 2x multiplied by 3p, just so that you don't think it's 2x x 3p. So that means multiplication can be as a sign, it can be as nothing, it can be as a dot. So this is an example where a multiplication, it is a sign of that one. Where it is nothing is that one. Can you see between 2 and p is nothing? Where it is a dot, it is that example there. You just need to know which one to use in which instance. For example, you cannot use a dot by saying 3 times 4, because sometimes it ends up as if this is 3,4. So that means a dot, it only applies where letters are involved. Nothing also applies where letters are involved, but only when you're multiplying the numbers, this is the one that you use. Lastly, a multiplication can be represented by making use of the brackets. Guys, listen very carefully. You always start where you see the brackets. That's where you start. Every time when you are given a maths problem, where you see the brackets is where you start. Most of you guys do know that, okay, now that it's even much easier to know if it's an equation or an expression. Now that you know it is an expression, it's good. Now that you know that you start where you see the brackets, it is good. The other challenge is not knowing how to deal with the brackets or how to remove the brackets. So can you guys see, you've got a series of problems, honorable members. You've got a series of problems. It takes that one good tutor to be able to break them down. To break them down into understandable pieces, so that when you study on your own, you no longer see maths the same way. But the ability to be able to interpret a maths problem, it's a very important ability. Yes, I like my T being silent, honorable members. So from time to time, you will notice that I like my T being silent. Very, very much important. Okay, so when it comes to the brackets, honorable members, it therefore takes us to the laws of exponents. Very, very much important. Very, very much important. Without you fully understanding, listen very carefully, without you fully understanding the laws of exponents, you will never survive in maths. Never. Ever, never, 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 never. Because almost everything is based on those laws of exponents. Somewhere, somehow, you do apply the laws of exponents, sometimes not knowing. Which is why I am encouraged to just simplify this. And then afterwards, we look at just a few of those laws of exponents, especially the most important ones. So let's see. Remember, I just said we start where we see the brackets. So we obviously have 2x to the 5, and this is multiplied, so that means I can still put a dot there. That is multiplying. I'm not sure if you guys remember where I was saying there is an exponent to every base. So otherwise there is an exponent which is an invisible one there, another one being an invisible one there, because obviously for x it is that 3 over there. So what basically happens there, honorable members, is that you see these two, it is going to multiply the power of each of those, meaning it is going to multiply that power of 1 there, and again it is going to deal with the power of that, and again it is going to deal with the power of that. So you have 2 to the exponent x. Then you need to say negative 3, and then you have to the power of 1 times 2. If you punch this on a calculator, trust me, it is going to give you 9. And then now you have x, obviously this is multiplying that. So it's like you have x to the exponent 3 times that, which is 6. And then now you have 1, it's like you have 1 times 2, you have y, I meant to say, and then 1 times 2, it is 2. Remember guys, you have the same basis. What do we do to the exponents? We add the exponents. But remember, in between you are having multiplications, and so it's like you have 2 multiplied by 9, which is 18. Then you have x. What do you do to the exponents? You add. So it's like 5 plus 6, which is 11. Then you have y to the exponent of 2. So can you guys see? You start with the numbers followed by the letters in their alphabetical order. 18 being number x, y, and then there are their exponents. I'm going to show you guys a mistake that someone can easily make. You see that negative 3 there. Someone is going to say, I take that negative to the outside, and then I have 2x to the 5, and then I just deal with that to the that, and then it's like 3 squared, which is 9, and then you have x to that 6 there, then you have y squared. And then they're going to say we have negative 18 there, x yes to the 11, and then that. That's how you get it wrong, because of that negative. So this negative is not just there, honorable members, but it is there to serve that purpose of confusing you. So that means when you have the power on the outside, you have this inside the brackets, you have that inside the brackets, you have that inside the brackets, and this power deals with each of those powers. I hope you guys are learning there wherever you are, honorable members. I know you guys are attending all over the country. I just know that Trench is somewhere in Mamelodi, and Wastrata ki 3 Spice, and I know there's Matapelo, Manama Mage. That one is somewhere there in Soweto. Myself, I'm here in Pretoria, honorable members, and I know there's someone there in Eastern Cape. Some in Cape Town, I know. And then una le babomma pe ba tswa Limpopo. Bana ba boarra, bana ba boarix, bana ba Sekwembo. Ladies and gentlemen, as a mathematician who is in high school, No time to sleep. Someone is asking what happened to negative. Punch this one on a calculator, honorable member. Punch this one on a calculator and let me know what you are getting. Trust me, you are getting positive 9. What happened to that negative? So 2, it means 2 of the same thing. So that means that 2, it means this. This is what the 2 means. So it's like you're saying negative 3 times negative 3. What is that? It's positive 9. If this thing was 3 there, nay, 3 means 3 of the same thing. That would mean it's negative 3 into negative 3 into negative 3. What is that? So that means you have negative multiplying negative being positive, multiply negative, it becomes negative. So you have 3 times 3, which is already 9, times 3, it's like 30 minus 3, which is 27. Yes, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But this is what I'm thinking, that a 3, negative 3 to the 3, it is that. Am I correct in saying that? I'm tempted not to confirm it on a calculator, but I think with my maths interpretation, this is what it should be. Moses, do you now understand what happened to that negative, honorable member? Moses, Penwell, Matlalela. Evan, Moses ki Matlalela Mos. Hope you understood. So this is what I was saying, honorable members, to say you guys are in high school. There's no time to sleep, honorable members. You do not have time to sleep. If you want to make it and you want to make it with the distinctions, you need to work hard, honorable members. No time to rest. You can't rest if you are not tired. So that means through these lessons, I'm hoping to keep you guys busy, to be tired, so that you know that when you rest, you are resting because you are tired. But otherwise, I think we've covered enough for today. And I think for tomorrow, that's when we can have a look at those laws of exponents. And then from there, we will therefore deal with some more problems. Remember, guys, on Monday, we're going to be having that event. So just make sure to stay available. Let me give you something to work with. Just in case if you wish for some more, at least I will leave you with something. So let's say you have negative 4x, let's say squared there, multiplied by x, multiplied by into there we have that, I will say squared, all of that over that, and then we have that to the that, and then that to the that. Yes, this is going to help you to keep your mind active. This is going to help you to think, honorable members, to think out of the box. I'm going to give you another one. I am going to give you another one. So there's no time to be bored as a mathematician, honorable members. This is like a game. You know, maths is like a game. You just need to understand how this game works. Once you understand it, trust me, honorable members, you will be able to be, you'll be able to decisively work or deal decisively with any type of a maths problem. Let me give you the last one, which is that. Let me give you guys another one, which is that. What is that? Okay, there we are having, maybe let me put it inside the brackets because it might confuse you some of you where you think it is a minus, whereas it is negative. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope you did learn something out of today's lesson. Please make sure that you keep the link of this lesson, just so that in case in future you want to refresh, at least you just click on the link and then you watch it again to refresh your mind. So guys, it is that time where we need to sign out. So on my side, I'm just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, I do thank you very much for joining. Trust me, my name starts with a letter D, and even today, I sign out by saying, my name is Desmond, and I'm out. Okay, let me just wait. I know Moano has to sign out. I won't sign out until Moano says Tsenalanga tse Moano Ndova. Guys, remember to click on that like button just for the sake of confusing the enemy. So that will serve as the attendance register. With you clicking on that like button, that's how you fill in the register. Okay, guys, ngilindile manje, ngilindile. Where is Muano? Muano. Larissa Egesrevach. Yeah, I think there's a thing of Egesrevach. Egesrevach meaning I'm waiting. Gomez, sign out that way, honorable member. I'm not sure if you are there in Zulu where uzoti ligamalame ngigu Gomez sengiphumile. Yeah. Salang Bila. Oh, Heaven Mapula. Ape monore Salang Bila. I think I thought it's a Chinese way of saying what and I'm out. Thing is, we don't have that sh where I would read it as Shalang Bila. Ano wa Shalamo Mapula. Ka ofela ra tsamaya mna. Ka ofela ra tsamaya Mabula. Mabula zentuwe, mabula zentuwe, senataka yao. Mabula. Mabula zentuwe, mabula zentuwe. Mabula, do you know this song, honorable member? I'm sure you know the song. Why it's about Mabula? Kwesha Mabula. Mabula. Joro wena go Limpopo wena o ka kry loko ba re ke kae ha Mothiba nobody ya Mothiba. Don't forget to click the like button. Yes, please. There is Asandi Swa uthi igama lam ndringu asa ndriphumile enkosi se and trim good night. You see, that's a revolutionary way of signing out, honorable members. Okay, Mapula, you need to have when I go Pitori mos. Was Pitori Mapula? Napena ke tseba Mapula ba la Mothiba no body monna. Yelo na ro go Pitori Mapula. Okay, Mapula go Pitori kwa Trageville. Batho ba bua Pitori. Mapula, just ask one of your elders to say, there's this song which says, Mabula Zendro, Mabula Zendro, Zenadragaya. Just says, I'll try find a link to this song. Okay, guys, esikolo esiphumile nisalindeleni. I'm waiting to close and lock the door. Now you guys are still waiting. Lilindele. Skolo siqedile or esikolo siphumile. Yes, now we are done. Dzina langa ndi Muhano Ndova. Okay, that's what I was waiting for.